Sorry, excellent timing. This is the first phone I've had actually ever been the latest model. It's the Google one, you know. And my son is most unimpressed. Why did you get that? He said, I said, well, because the man said, I'm still working out how to use it. Not that I'm a techno phone, but yes, but it's not one of these, all sitting down and thousands of pounds. Just as I did. And he said, you're not too big too. I went,
bird on bare branch, flinging your frail song on the bleak air, tenuous and brave, like love in a bleak world, and like love pierced with everlastingness. Oh, praise that we too may be struck through with light, may shatter the barren cold with pure melody, and sing for your sake till the hills are lit with love and the deserts come to bloom. Words of Jane Clement. So we light our chalice, and as this is the start of Advent, we also light the first candle in our Advent. Good morning. Thank you all for braving the cold and chill and snow and ice to make it in today. I'm grateful for your presence here. I am grateful for the possibility of online worship, though I know we're experiencing some technical difficulties, which we'll explore during the first hymn. But for those who've made it here, I'm grateful. And I hope that whatever it is that you're seeking here, be it a time of joy and celebration, a time of pause, repose, or tears of sorrow, a chance to connect with one another or the divine, or to hear a few words of wisdom, whatever it is that's brought you into this space, I hope that you'll find that you're seeking, as well as a warm community. And the latter, I can assure you, because I know this community, it's filled with love and compassion and care and warmth. So, as we note, today is the first Sunday in Advent, which means it's also our toy service, where we collect goods for the Wood Street Mission, which will go out towards children in the Manchester area. And I'm grateful for all of your contributions. They've said the final day for collection is Friday. I spoke with them on the phone, and they did say that they said their final day was next Monday. So if you have forgotten something or you wanted to bring something next week, that is a possibility as well, but we'll definitely have to deliver it by then. And there is, of course, as well, for those of you here, a shared meal afterwards, of which you're all invited to, and then a chance to help decorate our tree. So we began with the words of Jane Clement. We turn now to Emily Dickinson, who states that winter under cultivation is as arable as spring. So just as we might expect to plant flowers in the springtime, so too in winter might we plant our ideals, might we have time for reflection and care and foster ourselves in this cold and chilly atmosphere. Let us sing together our first hymn in the Green Book, number 82, Eleanor Fargian's People Look East, hymn number 82. Let us turn now to a time of prayer, which will be followed by our covenant as printed in your order of worship. Caring God, whose love envelops us as a downy cushion in this bleak and cold world. As we encounter the crossroads in life and the decisions that relentlessly pursue us, let us stop and enjoy the uncertainty. So much is sure, and the voices of the experts never die down. Their guarantees are endless, and the commotion of their promise deafens our hearing. But let us not fall into a quick judgment. Let us stop and enjoy the uncertainty. For we're called to make decisions every hour, every day, endless without break. Let us pause and enjoy the uncertainty. For when a jug of dirty water is shaken, the grit obscures our view. But as it lies still, the sand settles, and we may drink it with pleasure. We may look out upon a landscape of fierce coldness and blustery winds, of snowfall torrenting one way or another, icy rains, obscure fogs. But we know the weather will calm, the clouds will part, and the sun will shine. And as the fog dispels, we may know our way. As it is in our life outside, so too may it be in our spirits inside. Until then, let us enjoy the uncertainty. Amen. And please read with me our covenant, which is printed in our order of worship. We gather here in sacred fellowship to witness the fullness of our lives and all life, to hold and be held, tell stories and listen, to be renewed and renew the world. We speak with care and patience. We act with gentleness and compassion. We forgive each other and ourselves. In faith that we build beloved community, we renew our covenant today. I'm afraid I've chosen, rather than a story today, I was about to say a bog standard reading. No, it's a lovely reading, as you know, all the elements in our service as it's constructed. But it's not as animated as my normal Sunday stories are. So this is a beautiful reading, again, on the notion of Advent as expectancy, perhaps as a bit of uncertainty, by Richard Gilbert. The earth has turned once more in its accustomed way, and again our footsteps quicken, our voices are raised in familiar chorus. The sights and sounds of Christmas greet our eyes and ears, almost as if we had never seen or heard them before. There is a mood of expectancy. What we are to expect, we do not know. The least surprises are hidden beneath bright paper and graceful ribbon. The great surprises are the magic that happens whether we will it or not. There is a mood of expectancy. And the beauty is we do not know what to expect. Tomorrow is an open door, an untraveled journey, an untouched feast. Christmas is like that. It is a mood of expectancy. For out of the birth of the humblest babe may come one of the great prophets of the human spirit. And out of each of us, proud or humble, may yet come truth and beauty and goodness that we cannot now imagine. Christmas is a mood of expectancy. Words by Richard Gilbert. There is a mood of expectancy, and the beauty is we do not know what to expect. Well, you have a chance to share your lives, your joys and sorrows, your trials, as well as your triumphs. If you want to share these publicly, please come forward and light a candle. If you have a few words to say, please come to the microphone so those who are using the loop system, those who are online might be able to hear you. And if you are online, please type into the chat box and we will read your message out. You're invited to light a candle in silence if you wish. And as always, if you prefer to hold your light in your heart, know that your presence here is enough. Nothing else of you is required at this moment. You are held and loved just as you are. I'd like to light a candle for Thomas. He's had a number of weeks at school. He's done exceptionally well. Towards the end of last week, things were getting a bit tricky, but hopefully a 3-day weekend for him has helped smooth the tides. Knock on wood. So, a lot of love and care for Thomas.
I just, this is for the homeless man that I found in the toilet at Pret across the road this morning. I worked a long time with the long-term homeless. He had that smell of decay about him, and he was on some kind of drug that he didn't even know where he was. So I quietly just shut the door on him in the hope that he could stay a little bit more in the warm. It reminded me of how the worst side of Manchester, and I lit a candle in the hope that something good may happen to him. I met a lady on the bus who I've seen many times on the buses before I got off, and she said to me, "You are a real fighter," meaning in my wheelchair. And I said to her, "Yes, I am." So I wish that part of my fight could go into him, and that some way, somehow, a hand could be held out to him that wasn't recoiling in the smell and the decay, but would perhaps give him a way forward. So I give him to God. Let God hopefully can sort it out for him.
for all those joys and sorrows here spoken, and those that remain silently in our hearts. Let us sing now our second hymn, which is printed in your order of worship. Let Christmas come, its story told when days are short and winds are cold. Aaron, if you can play through it completely once, just so people recognize the tune. Let Christmas Come by John Hanley Morgan. Our second reading today comes from Evelyn Underhill. God is love, or rather charity, generous, outflowing, self-giving love, agape. When all the qualities which human thought attributes to reality are set aside, this remains. Charity is the color of the divine personality, the spectrum of holiness. We believe that the tendency to give, to share, to cherish is the mainspring of the universe, ultimate cause of all that is, and reveals the nature of God. And therefore, that when we are most generous, we are most living and most real. To enter the divine order, then, achieve the full life for which we are made, means entering an existence which only has meaning as the channel and expression of an infinite, self-spending love. When we look out towards this love that moves the stars and stirs in the child's heart, and claim our total allegiance, and remember that this alone is reality, and we are only real so far as we understand this, we see our human situation from a fresh angle, and perceive that it is both more humble and dependent, and more splendid than we had dreamed. We are surrounded and penetrated by great spiritual forces of which we hardly know anything. Yet the outward events of our lives cannot be understood except in their relation to that unseen and intensely living world, the infinite charity which penetrates and supports us, the God whom we resist and yet for whom we thirst, who is ever at work, transforming the self-centered desire of the natural creature into the wide-spreading, outpouring love of the citizen of heaven. Words of Evelyn Underhill. Let us return to a time of prayer with these words of Alan Rustin, prepared specifically for Advent. Eternal Spirit, indwelling in us all, may we never forget the significance of Advent as a time of preparation, not just for Christmas, but for the passing of the old year and the welcoming of the new. Christmas, for most of us, means the buying and receiving of presents, the decoration of our homes with greenery, and much else. Many of these customs are very old, their origin lost in antiquity, further back in time than the coming of Christianity. At midwinter, when the hours of daylight were fewest, the warmth of the sun weakest, and life itself seemingly at a low ebb, our ancient ancestors kept festivals by lighting bonfires and decorating all around with evergreen to sustain them at this most challenging time of the year. May our acts of celebration at this season inspire us to work for brighter and more enlivening times in the coming year, when the world we live in may often appear in danger of slipping into chaos and negativity. Let us celebrate the cycle of the year by these December activities as symbols of renewal. The evergreen branches, even now in their seemingly dead season, are living and will renew. The seeds of growth and hope are ever present within and around us, just waiting to appear to us in the coming new year, as they have always done in the past. Now is a time to celebrate possibilities. Amen. And so let us enter into a period of silence for reflection, meditation, contemplation, and personal prayer. We come now to our next hymn in the Green Book, number 81, John Midgley's Advent hymn. John was the minister here at Cross Street when this building was opened, and it's a wonderful, it's fantastic hymn with his words, and the tune is a Bach, beautiful tune, but it is quite a long hymn. So just as a bit of forewarning, it's quite long and it goes quite high. That's why I've chosen it to be the third hymn, so hopefully we've warmed up a bit. But just do be prepared for quite a bit of singing now. So we come to our next hymn, Green Book number 81, John Midgley's Advent hymn. you. Well done. How many of you felt you managed that? We should mark Advent a number of times a year so we get a bit more, I was going to say a bit more practice in, but oh, those words. And we shall hope until the morning brings the thrill of a vision of peace on earth, its symbol birth, to make bright joy of future days. And that is what we're talking about, future days. There is a mood of expectancy. What we are to expect, we do not know. The least surprises are hidden beneath bright paper and graceful ribbon. The great surprises are the magic that happens, whether we will it or not. Whether we will it or not. Those words of Richard Gilbert. Religion explores a sense of time that is not progressive, but also one that is rather cyclical. The church calendar returns faithfully every year, intermingled with the seasons. The rituals of faith are renewed again and again by the next generations, as they have for millennia. In this way, we may tap into experiences of our ancestors, knowing they too looked up at the night sky with piercing questions. They forged relationships with their neighbors and enemies, and ultimately stepped into an unknown future obscured by death. The earth has turned once more in its accustomed way, we heard earlier. Well, in the church calendar, we mark this Sunday as the beginning of Advent, traditionally the start of the Christmas period. Literally, to come. It recognizes the coming of Jesus, and throughout time its emphasis has vacillated between the coming of his birth and the coming of his return, depending on one group or another's theology. Traditionally a period of fasting, historically, but not as brutal as Lent, Advent belied the merriment that we now see. But as Gilbert writes, this is a period of expectancy. What we are to expect, though, we do not know. One frequent point that I am eager to make is the link between Advent and adventure. And it makes me think about the two. The expectancy of heading out versus actually being in the thick of adventure. Part of the appeal of an adventure is not just the destination and not just the journey, but actually the hidden mystery of it all. Queuing up for a roller coaster, we may only spy a bit of its workings. The whole experience will only be lived out once we make it to the front. We may see wonders untold, but at present we may not even fathom what we may experience. We will never know what we will learn until we have actually learned it. And this unknowing in life that life presents to us is anxiety for us at times, but also enthusiasm at other times. It will hopefully always provide us with some means of growth. This journey, this adventure, is continuously challenging us, our prejudices, our assumptions, our knowledge, as well as our worldviews. And when challenged, we become emboldened or reflective. As Thoreau writes of his time in Walden, if life proved to be mean, why then I wanted to get the whole and genuine meanness of it and publish its meanness to the world. Or if it were sublime, to know it by experience. Our compasses are reset and we carry on throughout our life at this time. We sometimes experience this unknown as anxiety and sometimes as enthusiasm. But I would say that for the present, there is a lot of anxiety about the future. The effects of climate change, the presence of authoritarianism, the eroding of social safety nets. It certainly feels like the expectancy that we're experiencing this moment is more anxious and less enthusiastic. With each news item, do we gather a quanta of trepidation that makes us turn the paper just a little bit slower? Or perhaps wake up, sleep in just a little bit later? Along with those words of Richard Gilbert, I often at this time reflect on the words of Greta Crosby. Winter dark tends to warm light. Winter cold to hugs and huddles. Winter want to gifts and sharing. Winter danger to visions, plans, and common endeavoring. Crosby's poem explores how the absences in winter force us to grow. The earth turns away from the sun and all grows cold, so we must build fires for light and warmth. Resources are scarce, so we must share with others. The ice and the wind prove dangerous, so we must take care. We must prepare and plan and expect. But this unseen path necessarily obscures both our intended destination and our direction. The scenic route always carries with it a risk of becoming lost. We are called to join with one another in the challenge of the seasons, but even having lived through millennia, humankind feels as lost as ever. Even with the perseverance of the next generation, hope can feel hard to stomach. And some of that fear and anxiety is mitigated through our efforts. We worry about the future world that young people will inherit, but the young people seem to be making right choices. They are at the forefront of climate change. They are advocating for human rights and pushing back against those wielding power. When hope feels in short supply, we can look to the next generation. There is a mood of expectancy, and the beauty is we do not know what to expect. Tomorrow is an open door, an untraveled journey, an untouched feast. If the season and life generally presents us with these challenges, and our efforts go some way to allaying our fears, what might make up the difference? We might go some way to finding the path when lost, but we fear we do not always find our way. We must hold and hope and know, though, that there are others looking for us as well. We're not alone. This is also the time of grace, that uncounted compassion that finds us in the darkest hours. And with that sublime feeling of grace, of being loved and cared for and held. For once I was lost and now I'm found, as the old hymn goes. Maybe that's partly why we gather toys for children, both generally in Christmas time as well as here for the Wood Street Mission. Not just to provide these children who are without, but also to remind ourselves of these long-standing mysteries. The mystery of the next day, the mystery of compassion, the mystery of grace. To remind ourselves that we may work hard, but the world's care is not for us alone. For out of the birth of the humblest babe may come one of the great prophets of the human spirit. And out of each of us, proud or humble, may yet come truth and beauty and goodness that we cannot now imagine. We cannot see the next day. We can prepare for it as best as we are able, as history and the earth has taught us. But truly it is a mystery. What we can do is we can love one another, care for one another, hold one another, as winter dictates we do. And in its grace we can be loved, cared for, and held. Amen. A few notices before we sing our final hymn. If you're in need of a chat, please speak with me, or you can write to minister@crossstreetchapel.org.uk. We're also always grateful for people to volunteer, to assist with the IT, to greet, to provide readings. We're always grateful. And next week we'll definitely call upon people as it's our carols and readings, and a bit more on that in a moment. Providing flowers or helping out with the tea and coffee. Is there anyone to help specifically with tea and coffee after the service? Thank you, Carl. We're grateful as well for any donations. If this is your first time visiting, please, your presence here is enough. Do not feel obliged to contribute financially. But we are grateful for those who, as I say, contribute to the mission of our chapel. You can donate online at justgiving.com/crossstreetchapelmanchester, or you can email me about setting up a standing order. If you're here in person, we have a retiring collection along with envelopes, so we may claim gift aid. And if you're a regular in-person giver to the chapel, we have an envelope scheme where you don't have to write your details down every week. Speaking of every week, December is always a busy month for many chapels, so we have our Advent service today. Next week, the 10th, is going to be our service of carols and readings. The following week is our Blue Christmas service, which is an opportunity for those who find Christmas time quite difficult. Please do join us for that. That is also followed by our special Faith in Life sort of religious group, where we have a chance to sort of share more deeply our personal experiences, which I think is quite important for those who find Christmas quite challenging, certainly amidst this sort of center of Manchester with all of those light bulbs and joy and cheer that is spreading from everyone and not necessarily always to be received. And then the 24th, our Christmas Eve service. This is all at 10:45, by the way. Our Christmas Eve service, we encourage you all to wear Christmas jumpers. Catherine has represented one for us today. So please do, if you are feeling festive that day, do join in. And then I will be away for a couple weeks, but many thanks to those who will be taking services, which includes Anne, who will be taking the service on the 31st. So thank you. All of our Sunday services this month are at 10:45. Our Wednesday services are at 1 p.m. We've tried varying things in the past, but for now we're sticking with our regular service times. Are there any announcements from the congregation? Yes, Joe? No. Thank you. Thank you, Joe. So yes, Christmas cards to be signed during tea and coffee, and thank you all. Let us then sing our final hymn in the Red Book. I always touch upon the Red Book once a year. It's always this service, and it's always O Come Emmanuel. So I know it says 110 in the order of worship, but it is 112. O come, Emmanuel. Joe for the IT, Carol for the tea and coffee, Robin for greeting, and Sonia for helping to set up. And thank you to Catherine as well for helping to set up. Thank you. And thank you to everyone who's brought some food and brought toys. You do have another week to bring them if you wish. Thank you all for creating and sharing worship today. We close with a Japanese proverb. One kind word can warm 3 winter months. Amen.